Welcome to another installment of Friday Q&A. I hope you're all doing well wherever you're watching from. I'm going to talk about myself in a couple of minutes, but I just want to preface the start of this video and talk a little bit about Eddie Van Halen, because I wouldn't be doing this without Eddie Van Halen, and chances are neither would you. The guy was incredibly influential, and I'm sure, like all of you watching, I've kind of been thinking about him and listening to his music the last couple of days. And I just want to preface this video by saying that so many times in music or the arts, or I guess in just about any other field, someone who was massively influential in the field can pass away, and we can talk about how they may have been underappreciated or underrated or overlooked during their lifetime, and their work can be reevaluated after their passing, and I guess in hindsight be seen as innovative or groundbreaking or just generally fantastic and great. And if there's anything that we can do to make us smile about the passing of someone like Eddie Van Halen, because Eddie was always smiling when he was playing his guitar on stage, is that, you know, he got every amount of recognition and all the success that he deserved in his lifetime. He was undeniably a great when it comes to the electric guitar, easily right at the top of that list of greats as well. And people recognized that while he was alive. While he was at his peak, people recognized that as well. And not only was he a great player, he was a very successful musician. He wrote some very, very popular and timeless songs. As a businessman, he was very, very successful as well. And it is kind of a nice story in that regard, where someone who was undeniably great was recognized as undeniably great while they were alive, and that's how they will be remembered for, I guess, the rest of the time we're still worried about these things called electric guitars. So I guess the best thing we can all do to remember EVH is to play our guitars and to try to pour as much of ourselves into playing those guitars as we can, because that's what he did, and it's such an amazing example to follow. The rest, in my opinion, speaks for itself. Go and listen to your favorite Van Halen album over the weekend and play some guitar along to it and get inspired. All right, having said all of that, I'm now going to talk about myself. Thank you so much for this week's questions. I always love doing these Q&As. I really mean that. I look forward to Friday every week, where I sit down and I read through the questions, and I, sit here and answer them on camera and play a little bit of guitar. What a great way to spend a Friday afternoon. If you have any questions for next week's video, please put them in the comments below. Ask me absolutely anything you like, and I will do my best to get back to you. If you want to listen to some of the music that I make, there are links to my band Ragdoll's music in the video description, as well as links to my Patreon, where you can get some exclusive content, including extended Q&As, guitar tab, all that kind of stuff. All right, this is a PV Wolfgang special. It says special on the headstock, but it has the kind of natural binding, which I really, really like. It's totally stock. I got a great deal on this guitar a few years ago, and I've been playing it a lot the last couple of days. So I'll play it a little bit for you all, and then I'll answer some of your questions. And because this question comes up every week, at the moment, I'm playing the Axe FX3. This is my live preset, which uses the Mark IV model. And in this case, lots of delay. Alrighty, this first question relates directly to the Axe FX. Have I had any luck playing other people's presets? I spend most of my time playing presets that I've dialed in for my guitars and using the effects and the amp models and cabs that I like. But there are a few presets that I've picked up kind of along the way that I do really, really like. There's been a few, shout out to the one and only Matt Picone from Fractal Audio for some of the presets he's shared on the Axe FX3. I know he's made a lot of the factory presets, which sound amazing, but there's an Echoplex preset, I should bring it up right now, that I play nearly every single day. It's called Echoplex Juniors. You can find it on the forum. And I love this preset. It's just some clean amps with a really kind of old school tape echo kind of thing. Of course, it doesn't sound very clean with this guitar because the pickups are so hot. So there is that one. There's a few other little presets that I've picked up along the way. But in general, I have more luck dialing in stuff for my guitars and my hands and the way I play. And I love that with the Axe FX, you have that choice. You can just stick with the stock stuff and it sounds amazing, or you can go bananas and dial in your own stuff. And I spend a lot of time dialing in my own stuff, so I'm super biased. You can get my presets up on Fractal's Exchange absolutely free if that's something you want to do. Somebody else, I really should give a shout out to Simeon Harris as well, because his ambient presets are phenomenal. I'll bring one of those up. You should definitely go to his website and download them and donate to his thing because, yeah, you know, he just makes amazing stuff. So I've got a bunch of these in a bank here. For example, one that I really, really like, I think it's actually the first one. No, it's the second one. It's called Alien Shore. I'll play a little bit with Simeon's preset. He is a genius when it comes to sound design on these things. Wonderful stuff, right? I should shout out Buddy, Austin Buddy on the forums. His presets are really, really good if you're into kind of vintage tones and raw amp tones. And also Thibaut Fremen presets, if you would know him. He does some really amazing creative stuff as well. And you should check out his stuff too. So that Simeon Harris bank of presets, though, is just, yeah, incredible if you just like ambient guitar and you just want to like sit there and play a note and have a soundtrack basically bloom out of your guitar. So that's some pretty cool stuff. This question, you guys know I love Marshall tones and you know I love Paul Gilbert. I have not tried the JHS Paul Gilbert pedal just yet. I actually don't think I've tried any JHS stuff, which is something I should get around to because their stuff is pretty popular. I really like watching Josh's YouTube channel as well. You know, his kind of delivery and I guess his sense of humor and the way he kind of markets his stuff is he's very good at what he does. And I really like some of the tones he pulls in those videos, especially the kind of like weird old pedals he discovers and, well, not discovers, but you know, shouts out and plays with. And yeah, that $99 US pedal range that he's got as well. I was watching the video for that earlier today and it sounds really cool. But I mean, I'm a Gilbert freak, so maybe if I am going to try a JHS pedal, I should try that one. Speaking of tones, would I consider doing like a Metallica tone pack for the Axe FX? You know, I'm not the world's biggest... No, look, let me say it like this. I like Metallica. Of course I like Metallica, but I'm not like a top tier Metallica fan. I haven't spent a whole bunch of time, you know, forensically picking apart their guitar tones or anything like that. So I don't think I'm the right guy to do those. I'm sure there's some other people out there who have done far better jobs than I would ever do. For me, it's just kind of like crank up a Mark Series amp and go chug, 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 and it's close enough for what I like to do. So that kind of applies, I think, in general for artist presets. It's not something I just feel too qualified doing, and I'll let the experts deal with that one. Uh, on that note, also of tones, this is kind of interesting, and I guess it tangentially applies to tones. But have I changed picks over the years? Really, really cool question. I have. I've also got, picks are good because you can, like, if you got an itch, you can scratch it with the pick. Probably a bad habit that I've developed, but uh, I'm using these Dunlop Jazz 3, what are these? The white Ultex ones, 1.35 millimeters. When I'm recording rhythm guitars with friend of the channel, Troy Nababan, shout out, I like the Tortex, the green ones. Just because, I don't know if you'll hear it too much here, I'll go with the Jazz and just do some chugs, and then I'll do the same thing with the green pick. They've got a very different attack, and I kind of like the way this tracks for rhythm guitar. So they're the two main picks that I use. I started off, my first ever pick was a Dunlop Big Stubby, so that's what I learnt guitar on, and I used to like the little stubbies as well. Probably for the first couple of years I played guitar, I like exclusively used those picks, and then I moved over to the classic, the red Jazz 3s. I liked the Jazz 3s with the texture on them as well, the kind of grip, and then I got hooked on the kind of see-through yellow Ultexes, and now I use these white ones. So this isn't Ultex, this is Tortex. It says right there, Tortex. I'm a moron. There you go, the little tortoise right there. So yeah, I haven't really played around a whole bunch with them because I found the thing that I like, well, the two things that I like that are useful, and I mostly stick to those unless I'm doing some acoustic guitar or something where I might use a kind of floppier, less stiff pick. But yeah, other than that, that's the history of picks, according to me. And having said that, where's my sound with lots of delay and distortion? I need to play a bit. Let's do some non-music related questions. Do I like camping, and have I ever done it in the outback here in Australia? Well, I haven't done it in the desert because Perth is not really too close to the actual desert, but I do like camping. I don't do it enough. Shout out to another friend of the channel, Mr. Ben Wilson, who's down in the Great Southwest here in Western Australia, and I know he's going to be watching this at some point, so I love you, man. Thanks for tuning in. But done quite a bit of camping down on his place. He kind of lives on a property which is just gorgeous and beautiful, and my wife and I have a two-person swag. If you don't know what a swag is, you got the power of the internet at your hands. Go and look it up. But I really like that. It's compact, it's easy to set up, it's a little less work than an actual tent. And now that summer's rolling around and we can actually kind of move around a bit, I hope to do a little bit of camping this kind of summer here in Australia. Remember, Southern Hemisphere going into summer. All right. Camping, yes, very, very fun. I like it. Great way to unwind and spend some time on holidays. My favorite movies. I'm not the world's biggest movie guy. That's kind of the running joke with all my friends. It's like when I say, "Oh, I haven't seen a movie," it's, I haven't seen a lot of movies. But I would probably say off the top of my head, some of my favorite movies, American Beauty, I really, really like that, especially for the soundtrack. It's probably my favorite soundtrack ever. I'm going to nominate Princess Mononoke, Studio Ghibli. That movie I could watch every single day. Beautiful, beautiful, stunning animation, amazing storylines, all of the Studio Ghibli stuff I really, really like. Let me think. Big fan of, when I was a teenager, the Scorsese stuff. So anything with Robert De Niro in it, I'm probably gonna like Deer Hunter, Taxi Driver, those kind of things. My wife always kind of makes fun of me because I really like the stuff with the hardcore themes and the brutality in them. But that's just kind of what I spent a lot of my time watching. And another movie off the top of my head, which might be a little bit less known, it's a German Turkish film called Gegen der Wand, and I saw that just like late one night, was flicking channels, and that kind of popped on the TV, and it was just starting, and I watched the whole thing, and that is a fantastic movie. I would recommend that. I think in English it translates to Head On. Uh, really, really cool. Really, really full on. Be prepared with that one. But off the top of my head, they're some of my favorite movies. Blade Runner, obviously, and the my favorite Star Wars movie is, of course, Empire Strikes Back, because it is the best Star Wars movie. If you disagree, feel free to disagree in the comments. What other questions related to not music do we have here? Not a lot. Not a lot. Oh, this is a good one. Has my dad ever sat in at a ragdoll show? It's happened twice. Once I sprung it on him and just said, "Hey, come, jump up and play a ZZ Top song." And if I can find the footage that someone took the second time that happened, I'll post a little bit of it. He just kind of jumped up and played tush with the guys, and the little pub that we were playing at kind of went mental. And it was so cool to just see my dad playing with the other two guys that I've spent so much time playing music with. And realistically, if I think of the biggest musical influences in my life, it's been my dad, and then it's been Ryan and Cam, because I feel like when I started playing with Ryan and Cam, I really knew nothing about music, and I've just learned so much, and kind of via osmosis picked up so many things about how to actually play guitar and play music in time from those two. So that was pretty cool. I need to find that footage, so there may be a really quick cut here. Will I do a lesson for Whitesnake's Crying in the Rain solo? I have to learn how to play that solo properly if I'm going to do that at all. I know it kind of starts like this, so here's how not to play it. Something like that. I just like pick really fast down along the E string in E minor, and then Sykes just goes ballistic. And what a solo. What an amazing solo. Talk about people who are a little bit underrated these days. John Sykes, what a beast. Will I sell my Axe-Fx 3 now that I've got an FM3? No, because the Axe-Fx 3 is kind of the core of my home studio right now. I have it, like, literally I'm touching it now. It's mounted on my desk, which has it's kind of like a two-sided rack, and I basically use it, right now I'm using it to record my guitar sound. I do it to record just about everything, but it also gives me another set of inputs and outputs on my Apollo interface, because I have them connected via SPDIF. I have like a patch panel. If you haven't seen my video about useful stuff, I kind of detail that. So if I'm demoing pedals, I'm just playing with pedals and trying to make some ambient noises, I have a patch panel there, and I can connect external pedals through that way, or I can reamp stuff using pedals, or I can connect things like my Polydigit and use the synthesizer modules in that to make some weird sounds. So that's how I'm using that at the moment, and I use it to track guitars. You heard it on the last Ragdoll single, Follow the Leader. Very handy piece of gear. And then the FM3 is my main gigging rig now. I did a gig last week with it, and it's like literally one hand for the FM3, a dual guitar bag with everything else, the other hand for the Atomic CLR, and that's my gigging rig, and it sounded pretty fantastic. I do like the fact that it's really easy to port, say, an Axe-Fx 3 preset over to the FM3 and vice versa. So yeah, I just kind of see them as just one big mega rig, and there's a really nice little portable part, and then there's kind of a more static part which lives in the studio. I'm still getting over the fact that I thought it was a good idea to play the solo from the Crying in the Rain solo just before. So yes, the solo from the Crying in the Rain. Last question for today. Again, thanks so much for watching. The theory versus ear debate when it comes to learning guitar. I spend most of my week teaching guitar from here online, and this is something that I talk about all the time with my students. it has to be a balance between both. You know, you have to do guitar, you have to play the guitar to get better at it, and you have to use your ears as a guide to tell you kind of when you're doing the right thing and when you're not doing the right thing. That's really important. Knowing music theory is going to reinforce a lot of those concepts. For example, if you were learning a pentatonic scale and you're trying to play over a chord progression, it's kind of good to know what musical intervals are, because you know you're playing over this. It's like, hey, why does that note there, the D note, fret 7 on the G string, why does it kind of suck when I play it over the A chord? If you know a little bit of music theory, you can very easily justify it and say, well, the pentatonic scale gives us a minor third, which is in an A minor chord. It gives us the fifth, which is in an A minor chord, and the fourth is kind of no man's land. It's not a very strong chord tone, so maybe rather than land there, bend it, and that's why so many rock guitar players play stuff like this. So part of that is a theoretical justification, and I will say music theory is not a science. It is more a set of common practices than like a rigid science. So that's also a big misconception I find with it. It's like, you know, music really is this culturally mediated thing, and within that culture we have these set of practices which kind of become norms over time, and then music theory is really like how do we talk about these particular norms, and how do we talk to one another as musicians. So if you don't listen to a lot of rock music, you're not going to know that that bend is kind of a common practice and a thing, and it's not attached to your ear. So that's where using your ears is important, because your ears are kind of going to tell you when you're doing the right thing, and the theory is going to reinforce that and maybe give you a clearer way to think about those particular practices. So yeah, you can't have one without the other, basically. Do both, and try not to overthink either of them, because at the end of the day, it is, again, it's just a kind of basically just a set of, you know, compilation of common practice. So yeah, go away and listen to a bunch of Van Halen, learn a bunch of licks, and then you can, I guess, like after the fact, kind of maybe justify why you're doing certain things, and then internalize that, and most importantly, kind of turn it into your own thing. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this week's Q&A. If you have questions for next week's Q&A, get them in the video description. Again, Bandcamp and Patreon links are in the video description. Have a great weekend. I'll see you guys next time.